Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Capt Olivia Flaherty, MBE. So today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about kind of my upbringing, my career so far, and also cover kind of the journey that led me to getting my MBE, and then finishing up with a few kind of like key takeaways that I wish I had when I was probably your age, sitting in the same position here. And hopefully something you can take away with you into your future careers and education. So talking a bit about my early life. My family background, we actually have like no kind of military history. We're not a military family. So joining the military, joining the army was not really one of my first considerations. Other than my late grandfather being conscripted into the Royal Engineers in World War II, that was pretty much it. So considering where I am today, I would never think, like, 11-year-old me would never think I'd be the person I am today and in the career I am today. My education, so I went to primary and secondary school in Surrey, both state school, but that's where I sort of developed my interest in science and mathematics. Found that I was all right at maths, quite enjoyed it, and science kind of came along with that. I also started to develop an interest in computers at this age, mainly just like learning how to code websites. This is probably like way beyond, something you're probably not tracking at your age now. But I was big into Neopets, this online pet website where you could like design your own websites. And that's kind of where I learned how to code HTML and CSS. Not really yet in, coding in Python and that kind of stuff. So I kind of got into website design that way, really unexpected, but picked up quite easily. And that kind of led me down that sort of interest in computers. I spent most of my sort of primary and secondary year school years wondering what to do. And I'm a big believer you can always sort of change your mind. You'll probably go through a huge variety of different interests trying to work out what you want to do. And it's never really too late to change your mind. But primary school, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to do all of that kind of stuff. And towards the end of primary school, getting to secondary school, I kind of realized, maybe I should focus a bit more on science and maybe a career prospect that I can do. Not trying to crush anyone's dreams with being an actor, absolutely go for it. But for me, I felt I was better off looking into the science kind of area. I then decided that I wanted to be a doctor. I then realized that would be quite stressful trying to operate on real living people. So then I decided maybe I could do pathology, so studying the dead. That didn't last too long, and I ended up wanting to be a forensic scientist. So that's why I ended up studying chemistry at University of Leicester. I then later dropped the forensic science aspect of it and just did straight chemistry, but loved it, really enjoyed it. And whilst I was there, I found out about the Officer Training Corps, which is basically the university equivalent of cadets, if people are aware of that. And so I joined this because I wanted a bit of a challenge. I just got into university. I kind of wanted to develop myself. I wanted the opportunity to develop myself from a leadership aspect, lead teams, wanted new adventures. I learned how to ski through the OTC. I did mountaineering. Didn't climb Mont Blanc, but was set to attempt it at least, but the weather was pretty bad. But yeah, joining the OTC was probably one of the best things I did whilst at university, just to develop myself, give me that little bit of edge when I would come out of university, showing that I could demonstrate certain leadership and management skills. Towards the end of university, I then decided I'm quite enjoying this OTC thing, and I would like to try and give officer education a go and join the army. I decided I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to have any regrets, and I thought, why don't I just do it now? If I don't like it, I can always leave, and I can say that I gave it a shot and did it when I was younger and not reflect back when I'm a lot older and I know able to do it and have regrets there. So I thought I'll give it a go and see where I get to. And so I went to officer education in 2017 and commissioned into the Royal Signals in 2018. The Royal Signals being providing the army with its communications. Of course, there's a variety of different roles in the army, but why I joined the Signals was when I went to visit them, they all seemed somewhat nerdy, and I really liked that. Everyone seemed to have their own special interests in some things, and you'll meet Signals officers that will claim they're like, I'm absolutely not nerdy, and you'll find out like they're super into a certain aspect. Even sporting, they'll be super into like one niche kind of sporting activity, and I count them as nerdy in that aspect. But that's why I picked Royal Signals. Soldiers and the officers got along really well, and I was like, I really want to lead these soldiers. Not really counting on the technical aspect at that point. I did tell them like, oh, I used to like design websites when I was younger. They quite liked that, but I joined it to lead people. But when I started to like actually get into my career, get my teeth into my career in the Royal Signals, loads of opportunities in sort of like the technical side started to like rear their heads. But I'll backtrack a little bit into my first role, which was a troop commander down in Bulford, so down south. And basically, first day on the job, I am managing 30 soldiers. I'm looking after their welfare, their health, their career management. I'm also looking after a fleet of vehicles and making sure that those are fit for purpose. And the whole aim of this is just making sure that we can deliver a capability for the wider squadron, the wider regiment. Of course, that's quite daunting, but my officer education has prepared me for it. And it's something that I wouldn't expect any of my other peers who have gone into other roles through like other graduate schemes to even have this kind of responsibility. So really thrown in the deep end and kind of thrived on it a little bit. It was really, really rewarding. But whilst I was doing my troop command, several opportunities arose, the first one being the advanced course in engineering. And this was basically an 11-week cyber boot camp in the US. This was in upstate New York, nowhere near New York City, so sadly not going to see the Big Apple on a daily basis. But meeting loads of different people that work sort of in the cyber domain for the American Air Force. But the boot camp itself, 11 weeks, each week we covered like a different topic. So it was kind of a baptism of fire into all the different kind of areas and you could experience kind of in cyber. And the one I really resonated with was the penetration testing week. So we're learning how to break into computers, scan a network, find the vulnerabilities and work out how to use those vulnerabilities to gain access, and then maybe dropping some malicious files to make sure we had continued access. And I really enjoyed that. It was a puzzle that you're trying to solve, but there's not always a very neat answer. And you've got to make sure that you're exploring all the kind of opportunities and sometimes trying to think outside the box. So that really resonated with me. And I was like, cool, I really want to do more of this pen testing stuff. I came back after the boot camp, ready to get my teeth into something sort of related. I then went on a cyber exercise called Army Cyber Spartan. Cyber exercise, this is basically, you have several teams. One team is your network defense team. So they're given a network representative of your standard, let's say business network, computers linked together. And then you also have a red team, which is the attackers, the adversary, trying to gain access to it. So throughout the course of this exercise, you've got the blue team defending and the red team trying their very best to break in. And so my first role on this kind of exercise was just a standard operator on red team. So I'm just first time really hands on keyboard, working out how to break into the blue team's network and bypass their defenses. Really enjoyed it, very chaotic. There wasn't really much of a structure to it. But again, thrown in the deep end, a bit of baptism by fire, and quite thrived on that, and just happy to have the opportunity to get some hands-on experience. I was then invited to go on Lock Shields twice, which is great, in their red team. And this was a NATO-level exercise in Estonia. So this was all different countries, part of NATO, putting forward their own blue team defenders into this exercise. And then we as red team trying to test those blue teams against each other. And again, it was an amazing opportunity to meet other people from all different countries, understand how they do their kind of adversarial simulation, how they simulate an adversary. And again, just a really good opportunity to learn from that and get more hands-on experience with this whole network penetration testing. I then finally finished up my time in my first role in the Information Assurance Fellowship. Basically, this was kind of trying to turn things on their head regarding network defense. Instead of trying to stop anyone trying to get into a network, let's focus on what the network's actually trying to achieve and make sure that the mission can always be achieved no matter sort of like the situation, the adversary, the skills of the adversary, whatever's going on. So it was really interesting to try and think about things in a different way and thinking outside the box, which again is kind of like what I really enjoy doing for, with information assurance, with trying to break into computers, trying to always think outside the box and see if you can do things differently. So developing those opportunities really helped me develop that mindset. So after that, I actually got invited back to the US, same place for a year, and I got to work on basically trying to develop a small satellite that could not be hacked. It was definitely a project where there should have been like a skilled team doing it rather than myself, but it was really interesting and I got to learn a massive amount in a short space of time. Mainly focused on like engineering methodology and how we can design systems to be secure from the get-go, not just design a system and then think about the defenses afterwards, which is how usually vulnerabilities arise. I also then went on another cyber exercise called Defense Cyber Marvel, and this time I was the second in command for the red team. So I was actually trying to build the red team and manage it. US is great, came back to the UK, and then I worked in another exercising role. This time I was making loads of connections across defense. We were basically trying to understand how does the cyber domain work in different kinds of situations. Lots of international travel, just a really good experience overall, but I'm not going to go into depth as to what I did there. I also then went back again on Defense Cyber Marvel 2 and 3, but this time I was the officer in command of the red team. So this was my own red team now that I had to grow and develop, and so what led me to getting my MBE. Did that for 2 years, and now I am currently doing my regimental duties, which basically means I'm doing a standard kind of green army role. I'm still sort of keeping a bit of involvement in the cyber side of things, but I've got to come back and do a bit more of the, green stuff. At the moment, I was saying kind of like an HR manager. So I'm managing the health, welfare, career management of up to 400 people in a regiment, which again is a huge responsibility, a great opportunity to develop my leadership management skills. But yeah, not really dabbling too much in the cyber area. I do have some pictures up here, which is related to some of the things I've done. For Defense Cyber Marvel 4, we actually went to South Korea, which was awesome. And that's me down at the DMZ. They have a big Christmas tree there on the border, and I'm not too sure why. Apparently just love Christmas in February. And then most recently, as part of regimental duties, we did a march through York, Freedom of York, and that was the first kind of like proper military stuff I've done in a couple of years, so actually quite rewarding and good fun. But yeah, met loads of people from different walks of life, and it's just been a really great, well, I'd like to say a great career so far, but like a really rewarding experience so far. So actually getting into sort of like how I got my MBE, whilst I didn't see the citation, I've been told I was awarded it for my contributions to cyber defense. And the main thing I did was build a red team for this cyber exercising series. So when I was talking about my first sort of baptism by fire, hands on keyboard, a group of 10, it wasn't really coordinated, it wasn't structured. We weren't thinking about like what we were actually doing. Are we, are the blue teams defending getting any education out of this? Are they learning anything? Or are they just basically being smashed by us and then they have their head in their hands and they have no idea what to do? So through iteration of red teams, we started to build this up a little bit more. So as the second in command for the first Defense Cyber Marvel, we decided to actually put a structure into the red team. We tried to build like little teams of teams. So instead of just having a huge group of people all trying to do a bunch of different things which isn't coordinated, we actually broke it down into smaller sub-teams. We implemented a campaign plan. We wanted to actually simulate a growing adversarial threat across a week. So starting off with like a few what you might call script kiddie attacks, so someone running some off-the-shelf tools that you might find online very easily. And then slowly ramping it up to more sophisticated attacks and trying to replicate different actors. So think about like your hacktivist groups dropping ransomware. Think about your nation-state adversary who's planned a campaign, an offensive cyber campaign for like over 2 years and has that backdoor access to all of these networks. So we're trying to add a bit more thought to this, and we're trying to teach the blue teams like different things they might see, rather than thinking, oh, that's just red attacking us. We're trying to get them to think like, who is attacking us? Is it a hacktivist group? What are their intentions? You know, what computers are they going to go for? They're not going to go after certain things. They want to hit us they want to hit us hard. They want to hit something that's going to make a company want to pay a ransom. So trying to get them to think a bit more about things. So we added a structure. We also started to train ourselves. So we realized we only had a small pool of people. Like I said, we had about 10 to start where we expanded to like 30. But we had to reach a number of 120 in 2024, which is a huge amount. We don't have that kind of, we have those kind of skilled people currently in the military at that time. So we had to devise our own training pipeline. So a huge part of building the Red Team was working out, right, how are we going to train someone from basically no basic, complete basics, can turn on computer, how are we going to get them from that to actually being able to conduct a series of attacks on a blue team? So we designed a training pipeline, basically using a lot of evenings and weekends to do that. So a lot of spare time was sort of donated to try and make this a reality. And so basically what we ended up creating is, in military terms, a subunit, a squadron, which is about 120 people. You have 3 different groups in this like huge group, and you have to manage it and manage all the aspects of it, including the training and the equipment, which is a responsibility that you don't usually have as a captain. So again, like a really huge responsibility that I was able to have, and a great achievement in itself. But also trying to think ahead. So we got a team, we've got a big team, trying to future-proof it and future plan it, and making sure that we are self-sustaining ourselves, especially with the training side of things, but also making sure we're training up the next leaders. The people currently in these leadership roles are going to have to go away. Responsibilities will be primary. They'll have to leave. They'll have to go and do other things. So we need to make sure that we're training people up, ready for them to take over into these roles. So again, forward thinking, forward planning, which is always important. And I can see it now. So I've had to take a step back, but I can see it in the current team. So for the Defense on Marvel that was in South Korea, that team is still running. That team still has all the functions, and it is growing and expanding and improving. And I can't take the credit for all of that, but I'd like to think that I gave it a certain ethos. So they will be thinking about these things. They are thinking about, right, how can we do this better next time? How can we make sure we have the right people for this next time? How can we prepare for however many blue teams are going to be part of the next cyber exercise? That's very broad brush. I can't go too much into the basics because I'd have to do a whole another 30-minute presentation. But what I do want to do is give you a few key takeaways, something to reflect on, something to keep in mind, things that I wish I knew when I was 16, 17, 18. Career-wise, just don't, it's a phrase I use a lot. People who know me will be very aware of this, but don't self-select yourself out. What I mean is put yourself forward for any opportunity that comes for it, even if you don't meet all of the prerequisites. What is the harm in putting yourself forward? You never know. When I first applied for the cyber boot camp, I was technically too old for it. So we're looking for people at the start of their careers. I mean, I was at the start of my career, but just outside the age bracket, 19 to 22. I was 23 and I was like, oh, well, that's me out then. But my second in command was like, just put yourself forward. Why not? What is the harm in it? So I put myself forward, got accepted, and that started to give me all the experiences and key skills that I've been able to use to get to where I am today. So yeah, absolutely, any opportunity, put yourself forward, let them filter you out, don't filter yourself out, because you never know what opportunities you might be passing up on. And the second one, so I say more from a personal standpoint, is always volunteer for things. I think it's good to spend a little bit of time outside of like your career work, just volunteering for something. Or other opportunities inside education or your future careers. During my officer education, we had a key, like a phrase, which is called "Don't be the grey man," and what that means is fly under the radar. Don't like make yourself stand out. Don't put yourself forward for anything. Just cruise through, and you'll basically the idea was like staying safe. Well, I'm a woman in a group of 30 people. I stand out already, so I might as well volunteer for things. But I found volunteering for things is, you're not passing up on opportunities. You never know where those opportunities may take you when you do volunteer for things. So I think it's really important just to keep that in mind. Do put yourself forward, put yourself out there, because what's the worst that could happen? So yeah, if you don't remember anything from this presentation, please take those two things away, reflect on them, and hopefully take those forward into your future education and careers.